politicians travel on your dime? Do they bring back anything other than souvenirs?
Tonight, we're taking a closer look at where Rhode Island lawmakers are going and why. NBC 10 I-Team reporter Tamara Sakarsik reveals what it's costing you.
From Massachusetts to Puerto Rico, Rhode Island state leaders collectively spent 229 days traveling outside of the ocean state in a one-year span. The NBC 10 I-Team reviewed public records from February of 2024 to February of 2025. Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos spent the most time out of state at 71 days, including 3 trips to the National Lieutenant Governors Association and 2 trips campaigning for the Harris-Walz campaign.
Is it appropriate for the Lieutenant Governor to be away from Rhode Island that often?
Yes, this is part of the work of the Lieutenant Governor. The Lieutenant Governor is served as the ambassador of the state of Rhode Island.
Matos' business-related trips cost taxpayers nearly $6,600.
How would you justify that to the average taxpayer who just sees that number and says, why are we spending money on our Lieutenant Governor going to various conferences?
Well, this is part of the office. It's the National Lieutenant Governors Association. The National Association is a bipartisan opportunity. This is where your Lieutenant Governor is able to sit at the table with people with different ideas, different perspectives.
Matos says her trips also directly benefit Rhode Island as she convinced the conference to come to the Ocean State in April.
There's going to be an investment already of about $100,000 to $160,000 from that conference. I'm very careful about when I use the state money. I just use it when it's strictly directly connected to the work of the office.
As for the other offices, Governor Dan McKee spent 64 days out of state. His business trips cost taxpayers nearly $16,000. State Treasurer James Diosa spent 37 days out of state. No state money was used for any of his travel. Attorney General Peter Nerona was out of state 16 days, costing Rhode Islanders nearly $1,800. Secretary of State Greg Amore spent over $7,300 on 7 trips for a total of 41 days out of state.
How do you justify that use of tax money?
Most of these trips were part of either the National Association of Secretaries of State, where I chair the Elections Committee, and have an opportunity to learn best practices, share best practices. It's really a professional development opportunity.
Amore's travel includes conferences for the National Association of Secretaries of State and the 250 Commission conferences. He also went to a Netroots Nation conference, a White House Italian American Heritage Month event, and a day trip to Washington to meet with Senators Reid and Whitehouse.
Why put that expense on taxpayers when they're here literally several times a month?
Because we were there on Rhode Island Lobby Day, and the senator's staff brought in folks who we could speak to around federal funding for the state archives.
Why not wait for them to get back to Rhode Island?
Well, their staffs are not in Rhode Island, and their staffs were tasked with getting us information around how we can access those funds.
Amore argues he only spends state funds when necessary.
When we look at the agenda for the conference and we see something that we want to learn about, or we know that the FBI is going to be giving us a briefing on cybersecurity threats, or if our business services folks see something they're interested in on cryptocurrency, then that's important for me to be there and to make sure that I have that information.
Last year, he declined an invitation to the National Association of Secretaries of State conference.
If the agenda doesn't fit something we're interested in, then I'm not going to go.
All of these trips are considered allowable uses of state funds, and these leaders did not use tax money for vacations or campaign travel. It's also important to note elected leaders nationwide attend the same conferences on the dime of taxpayers in their states. To see a breakdown of where your elected leaders went, you can head over to our homepage. For the NBC 10 I-Team, I'm Tamara Sakarsik.